Welcome to our unique financial channel. Folks, there's nothing else like it on YouTube. What we do on this channel is we set up spreadsheets and run numbers for people. We show you financial concepts like sequence of returns risk, compound growth, the importance of your asset allocation, the impact of inflation it can have on your nest egg, the 4% withdrawal rule. We also take into account Social Security. But what we do on this channel is use actual historical returns for the last 100 years, which are right here. These are the returns for the S&P 500. We figure it's not going to be any worse than the 1930s, so we feel pretty safe about that. Running numbers showing you if we even have the worst case scenario, returns like the Depression type years, how would your money work out? What we're going to do is take somebody that has right here, age 62, has 560,000 saved up. According to a Social Security statement, he's going to get 1,860 at age 67. He wants to know if he can retire safely now. So instead of taking it at 67, he's going to take it at age 62. So we're going to go ahead and run these numbers. He's got 560,000. We're going to do a 70-30 asset allocation, meaning 70% stay in the S&P 500 because you want to gain from these kind of returns. These returns right now are showing the 1925 returns going down through here. Obviously, the returns going forward aren't going to be identical to this, but they are going to give us a range that we can look at. So in that case, 70-30 allocation, 70% stay in the S&P 500 so you can benefit from this. But whenever the market's going down, we're going to have some kind of a cash reserve account over here so you don't take these amounts out of the S&P 500 when it's already going down. You don't want to be a seller in a down market. So you want to take this 43,000 out of this cash reserve that you've put over here. We got that growing at 3%. So we're going to go ahead and run the numbers, and that's what we did here. We did it for every single year. And I want you to notice, because we have this high 6.85% withdrawal rate, which is this, that's what this 4,500 is. Even taking into account Social Security, you're actually taking out 31.98 each month, but that's 6.85%. That's way above the 4% rule that a lot of people have used for the last few decades. And 27% of the time, again, using these numbers, just plugging them in, 27% of the time, you'd run out of money. Now, a lot of people might not be too comfortable with that. So what could they do differently? Watch what happens if we just do one minor change, which would probably be the least painful, rather than dropping down to say, I'll just do 4,000 real quick here just to see how that might work out. Now we're at a 5.78% withdrawal rate, 5.78. In that case, how many times in the last 100 years would you run out of money? Taking $500 less, now it's 9%. So that's doable. But what if you really need the 4,500? What's the least painful way to possibly get this? Again, let's go back and show you what the 6.85% problem was, or withdrawal rate was. That was having a failure rate of, I think it was 27% of the time. Yeah, 27% of the time you can see the red's going down through. What else could you do differently? How about in down years, actually the year after a down year, because you won't know till the end of the year if it's a down year. How about the year after you have a down year, you actually don't take the 3% COLA? So in other words, here's a down year right here. You were taking $35.99 out. That was the 4,500 minus the Social Security, increasing that by 3%. What if you actually took a negative COLA? What I mean by that is, instead of increasing this amount by 3%, you actually cut it by 2%, so it's actually went down. Now I want to run the numbers to see if this helps much at all with this 27%. Again, what we're doing here is whenever there's a negative year, the very next year you take a little bit less. It'd be a little bit less painful. You could go to $4,000 a month, which is $500 less, but see if this changes much. It took it from 27% down to 12%, just doing by that minor adjustment. So instead of having to go from 4,500 down to 4,000, you just went right here. For example, the market starts going down. You went from 35.99 down to 35.27. Went down again, because this is a worst case scenario. It's probably not the best numbers to be looking at. Let's look at some other ones here. Just showing you how all this would work. But this updated it for every single scenario. You saw now we're down to a 12% problem using the S&P 500. Let's just do one, or let's go to 4,300. See if we can get this down there below 10%. Doing the same scenario where after negative years, instead of taking a 3% COLA, you take a -2, what we call a negative COLA. Let's see how that might work out. See if we can get down this. Right now we got an 88%, 87% success rate after 20 years. See if this can knock us down even better. Taking just a second to read. Now we're down to 9%, which if you remember, that's the same kind of situation we had when we went from 4,500 down to 4,000. But we're just going from 4,500 down to 4,300, a little bit less painful, and then taking using these negative COLAs. In that case, you've got a 91.4% success rate. But this just shows you what we can do on this channel. We can run all kinds of different numbers. Can he retire safely? Again, it's kind of iffy when you got this kind of percentage withdrawal rate. It's so much higher than the 4% rule. But if you really want to retire, you want to take Social Security from day one, looks like you'd have a success rate 91% of the time using this scenario, even though your withdrawal rate's kind of high. But again, that's what we do on this channel. We love running numbers for people. Please consider subscribing. Please share this channel with others. Let them know there's a channel out there that'll run numbers. We create all kinds of different spreadsheets because we really want you to know about these financial concepts. And the best way I know is just to use actual numbers from the last 100 years, run the numbers and see how they might work out. In this case, we saw with making these few changes here, you have a success rate of 91% of the time after 20 years and 94% after 30 years. The reason there's a difference there, it's higher, is because we don't have as many 30-year periods as we do 20-year periods in the last 100 years, if you caught that at all, the difference there. Also, another thing we like to do on this channel is we figure in the first decade of your retirement, you're probably going to spend more than you do in the second decade. And you're probably going to spend even less in the third decade. They call these the go-go years, the first 10 years, the slow-go years in the second decade, and the no-go years in the third decade. For example, in your 60s, you're probably going to spend more than in your 70s, and then even less in the 80s. And so we can change those numbers there. That's what we did there, just to kind of run the numbers, trying to be as realistic as we can on this channel. We can change when you take Social Security. We have all kinds of calculations we can do there. Again, this is 1860. What he's going to get at age 67. And since he took it at age 62, he was only getting 70% of that. If he waited another year, he'd be getting $13.95. We can run all kinds of different numbers for you. And that's what we love doing on this channel. Please, again, please consider subscribing. Let people know about this channel. Please share it with us. Everybody that you know, let them know this channel's out there that'll run numbers for people and point out important concepts that you really need to know as you approach retirement or are already in retirement. Thanks for watching.